Okay, I want you to just picture this for a second. It's Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. We're in New Delhi, right in the middle of the Bharat Mandapam. And the energy, I mean, the place is just vibrating. It is day 2 of the India AI Impact Summit. And honestly, it really feels like the center of the tech world has, I don't know, shifted.
It absolutely does. And to give a bit of context, because it's easy to get lost in the buzz, we have to remember the timeline here. We've seen these big AI summits before. We had Bletchley Park in the UK, we had Seoul, we had Paris. But those felt, well, they felt very Western, very high level, focused on safety protocols.
Existential risk, right? Will the AI wake up and launch the nukes, that kind of thing?
Exactly. This is different. This is the first time the Global South is really taking the lead. They're grabbing the steering wheel on this whole global AI conversation.
And the theme says it all, I think. It's not about risk, it's something deeper. The guiding philosophy is Sarvajana Hitaya, Sarvajana Sukhaya.
It's a beautiful Sanskrit phrase. Translates to essentially welfare for all, happiness for all. And that single line tells you everything about the shift.
Right.
We're not just asking what can AI do technically. We're asking how does this actually help a common citizen? How does it, put food on the table? How does it cure a disease for someone who lives hours from a hospital?
From capability to actual impact. And that's exactly what we want to unpack today. We're going to dive into day 2, look at the tech on display. And I'm telling you, we have everything from robot dogs to smart cows. I am dying to talk about the cows.
I'm sure you are.
But we also really need to look at the framework India's proposing for ethical AI. So you mentioned this framework. I keep hearing about the 7 chakras, and I have to be honest, when I hear chakras at a tech conference, my skepticism radar goes up a little. Is this just branding?
I get that. It does sound a bit mystical for a room full of coders.
Yeah.
But if you actually strip away the name, it's a very pragmatic, very structured framework. Think of the 7 chakras as the organizational backbone for the whole summit. Thematic pillars.
Okay, so what are there? What are the pillars?
Well, you have human capital, which is all about skilling people up. You have safe and trusted AI, science, resilience, democratizing resources, economic development. But the one that really grabbed me and the one we need to spend time on is inclusion.
Inclusion, that's a word that usually goes on a corporate slide deck and means nothing.
But from what I saw today, they're talking about something very specific here, language.
Precisely. And this is so critical. For, the last 30 years, the internet has been English-centric. And for the last decade, AI has been incredibly English-centric. If you spoke English, you had the keys to the kingdom. If you didn't,
you were locked out. You were invisible to the digital economy. Totally invisible. And what they're doing now is flipping that script. So imagine a farmer in Telangana. He doesn't speak English. But with these tools, like the Bashini initiative, he can just speak to an AI in Telugu. He can say, my crops have these yellow spots. What is this? And it doesn't just give him a text article he can't read. It speaks back to him with actual advice.
That's the difference between a toy and a tool. And this ties into something I heard from Amitabh Kant from Niti Aayog. He kept using this term DPI, digital public infrastructure. It sounds boring, but I get the sense this is the secret sauce.
It is the most important acronym you will hear all year. Think of it like this. In the West, the model has been walled gardens. Google has a platform. Apple has a platform. You play by their rules.
Right, you're in your ecosystem.
India did something totally different. They built the infrastructure, like building the roads, not the cars. They built the payment rails, that's UPI. They built the identity layer, Aadhaar. And now they're building the AI layer, all as open protocols.
So the government builds the highway, and any startup can drive their car on it.
Exactly that. And Kat's point today was that without this DPI, AI would actually increase global inequality. It would just make the rich richer because they're the only ones with the data and the computers. But if you build this road for everyone in every language, it becomes the great equalizer.
It's preventing a kind of digital caste system from forming.
That's a really powerful way to put it, yes. It ensures these benefits reach the last mile, not just Silicon Valley or Bengaluru.
Speaking of the last mile, let's talk healthcare. This is a big part of the health equity angle. The Minister of State, Anupriya Patel, she had to address the elephant in the room right away. People get nervous. They think, is a robot going to be my doctor?
It's a real fear. But her argument is that AI isn't a replacement, it's a force multiplier.
Yeah.
And you have to understand the reality in the Global South. There's a massive shortage of specialists. The nearest radiologist might be 5 or 6 hours away from a rural clinic.
So the bottleneck isn't the tech, it's the trained human expert.
It is. So you aren't putting a robot in the clinic. You're giving the nurse a tool that can screen things. An AI model could look at an X-ray, filter out the 90% of healthy cases, and flag the 10% that show early signs of, say, tuberculosis.
So the specialist, who's hours away, only looks at the cases that actually need their attention.
Exactly. It solves the triage problem. It lets the humans focus on the critical care.
That's incredible. Okay. I have been very patient. We have to talk about the smart cows. How can I not? We're at this high-tech summit, and one of the main attractions is livestock. Tell me about these smart necklaces.
It does sound funny, but it's a perfect example of what people are calling physical AI.
Okay, define that. Physical AI versus, say, ChatGPT.
Right. So generative AI is digital to digital. It makes text, images, code. It lives on your screen.
Yeah.
Physical AI is when that intelligence moves out into the real, tangible world. Sensors, robotics. So these smart necklaces for cattle in Kashmir, they're constantly monitoring the animal's vitals.
Like a Fitbit for a cow, but why is that a big deal?
Because for a small farmer, that cow is their bank account. It's their entire livelihood. If that animal gets an infection and they don't catch it until it's visibly sick, it might be too late. The family could be ruined.
Wow.
These necklaces detect infection signatures days before symptoms show. The farmer gets an alert on their phone. A cheap antibiotic saves the animal. It's a huge economic safety net delivered by AI.
That's amazing. And there was another one about sugarcane, right?
Yes, from satellites, predicting the sweetness of sugarcane with 95% accuracy.
Wait, from space?
From orbit. It helps farmers know the exact optimal moment to harvest to get the best price for their crop. It all connects back to that theme. This isn't AI for writing better marketing emails. It's AI for survival.
I love that. And speaking of physical things, the robotics display. Day 2 was the first day the public got in, and the crowds around the TCS booth were, well, insane.
They were, for good reason. TCS was showing off this quadruped robot, basically a robot dog.
And this thing can navigate through rubble, right?
Yes. And it sounds cute, but the application is for industrial disasters. A factory collapse, a chemical leak. Instead of sending a human into that dangerous environment, you send the robot. It can climb over debris and use AI to find the fault, all without risking a human life.
It's the ultimate first responder for machines. And there was big industry news today, too, from Anthropic.
Huge news. They've opened their first office in India, in Bengaluru. And the stat they dropped was that India is now Quad's second largest market in the world.
That's wild. That says so much about adoption here.
It's a massive shift in perception. India isn't just a consumer market or a back office anymore. They're calling it a talent capital.
So they aren't just selling to India, they're hiring in India to build the next generation of these models.
Exactly. The intellectual property is going to be created there. They know the density of engineering talent is just off the charts.
Which is a huge vote of confidence. But I have to play devil's advocate. We're talking about all this talent and robots doing industrial work. I think a lot of people listening are just thinking, okay, great, but is this AI going to take my job?
It's the question. And Puneet Chandok, the president of Microsoft India, he had a really interesting take on this. He talked about a theory of unbundling.
Unbundling. Okay, what does that actually mean? Because it sounds a bit like corporate speak.
I get it. But the idea is pretty nuanced. We think of a job as one single thing. You're an accountant, you're a manager. His argument is that any job is really a bundle of hundreds of different tasks. Some are creative, some are strategic, and some are just repetitive, boring work.
Right, like scheduling meetings or formatting data.
Precisely. The unbundling theory says AI doesn't kill the whole job. It just automates those repetitive tasks within the bundle.
So if AI handles the boring 30% of my job, I'm left with the 70% that actually needs a human brain.
That's the idea. It frees humans up to focus on strategy, creativity, empathy, the things an algorithm can't do. We become managers of AI, not replacements for it.
It's a much more optimistic way to look at it. But for any of this to work, we need to trust the technology. And that takes us to this safe and trusted AI chakra, where the government ministers were really leaning in today.
Absolutely. The Union IT Minister, Ashwini Vaishnaw, was laser-focused on deepfakes. He was very clear that this is an urgent problem. You can clone a voice or a face with a few seconds of audio now.
It's terrifying. It completely destroys the concept of evidence.
It does, and he was talking about active dialogues with social media platforms, looking at real safeguards. The stated goal is protecting society, and especially protecting children.
It's interesting because the narrative in tech is usually that regulation kills innovation, but here the message seems to be we can't have innovation without regulation.
That is the India model in a nutshell. They're arguing that trust is the foundation. You can't have a digital economy if people don't trust what they see online. You need to build a smooth, safe road before you can drive a Ferrari on it.
That's a great way to put it. So the summit isn't over. Day 2 is wrapping up. What's next?
We're just ramping up. Tomorrow is the research symposium, which is going to be deep, hard science. But the big finale is February 19th.
The leaders' plenary.
The heavy hitters. Prime Minister Modi, Bill Gates, Dimas Hassabis from DeepMind, Dario Amodei from Anthropic. That's where all of this is going to come together.
Wow. So looking at everything we've talked about today, from farmers to robots, what's the big takeaway for you?
For me, is the positioning. India is carving out this unique identity. It's not trying to be Silicon Valley. It's positioning itself as the leader in ethical AI. It's trying to prove you can combine the most futuristic technology with a philosophy that's thousands of years old.
A fusion of the ancient and the hypermodern.
Exactly. And here's a thought I want to leave our listeners with. We talk about the digital divide between the global north and south. We've worried for decades that new tech just widens that gap. But if India succeeds with this digital public infrastructure, if they really crack the code on delivering AI to a rural farmer in their own language,
Could this be the model that closes that gap?
it could be. It could be the blueprint that finally democratizes this technology for the whole planet. Instead of widening the divide, this approach might be the thing that allows the global south to leapfrog development entirely.
That is a massive thought to end on. The merger of Sarvajana Hitaya and artificial intelligence. We'll be watching the plenary on the 19th very closely.
A lot more to come.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.